The Lakers traded for Russell Westbrook on July 29th. The Lakers expected a high-level scorer, playmaker, and overall a leader for the bench unit. But let's look at the last 4 months, or 53 games, of Russell Westbrook's Laker career. The season opener had the Lakers facing the Golden State Warriors. Russell Westbrook scored 8 points, 4 assists, and 5 rebounds. I'm not one of those people who will judge a player in one game that they have, especially rookies. But when you're an all-star player and you always have had background of always turning the ball over no matter what team you're on, it's just not good. The next 2 games of the season for Russ were just basic. First one was a 15-point, 9 assist, 4 turnover game. But the third game, Russ had 13.7 rebounds, 13 assists, but 9 turnovers. Even though Russ's 9 turnovers and overall just sloppy play against the Grizzlies, the Lakers were able to win their first game thanks to Carmelo Anthony scoring 28 points and 22 from AD. The 4th game of the season just shows how unpredictable Russell Westbrook can be. But LeBron James was not playing in this game, so the spotlight was on Russ and Anthony Davis to win this game against. First quarter was pretty close. The Lakers were up 29-27. AD had 10 first quarter points and Russ had a productive 5 assists. The end of the third quarter was bad. The Lakers were outscored 24-35. In the fourth quarter, the Lakers were able to tie it up and they entered overtime. And the highlight of the game was the poster by Russell Westbrook.
Looking for 31 and does it with it.
I mean, in the first 8 games of the season, they had a very mediocre record of 5-3. Russ had some normal 20-point games. He had 2 back-to-back 27-point performances. But on November 21st, the Lakers would go into Detroit with a 3-game losing streak and have probably the most entertaining game of the season. In the first half, Lakers were down 7, 61-68. With 9 minutes and 18 seconds to go in the game, Jeremy Grant was sent to the free throw line, and on his second free throw attempt, Isaiah Stewart got close to LeBron James, and LeBron elbowed him so hard that his whole face started bleeding. LeBron and Isaiah Stewart were ejected. The Lakers were down 17. But in the fourth quarter, Carmelo Anthony scored multiple threes. Russ got a poster. Even though it's just the Pistons, it showed how good the Lakers could be even when they have their best player out. But I mean, look at the bright side of this Lakers season. LeBron had a 7-game stretch where he got 7 straight 30-point games. LeBron has 22 30-point games this season. But let's bring it back to Westbrook. This is his lowest scoring season since his 2009 to 2010 season. But let's look back at the past 5 games the Lakers have had. In 5 games, LeBron was out. The Lakers had a 1-4 record. Now let's look at the most recent game that the Lakers have had. The Lakers had an atrocious first quarter that made me want to turn off the game. The Lakers scored 29 points in the first quarter compared to the Knicks' 42. The first half ended and the Knicks were up 71-56. Russ shot 2 for 7 and 0 for 2 from 3. The third quarter of the game got interesting. The Lakers outscored the Knicks 31-13. A Malik Monk 18-point third quarter. He outscored the Knicks by himself. 18 points Malik Monk had by himself and 13 the Knicks had all together. And this is where we need to talk about Malik Monk. On August 3rd, Malik Monk signed to the Lakers as a free agent, and most people saw this and thought an average guard would maybe average around 10 points at most. But what we have seen this season has convinced a lot of Lakers fans that Malik Monk might be the 3rd best scorer and maybe player on this team. Look at the screenshot from that game and tell me this doesn't radiate big 3 energy. And now we go into overtime. In the overtime, the Lakers won 122-115, having a potential blowout game and making it a win in overtime. But the question is, with the trade deadline being a couple days away, what would the Lakers do? With a 26-28 record sitting 9th in the Western Conference, the Lakers have a decision to make. Do they want to trade Russell Westbrook? But the truth is, can they even trade Russ? Probably not. That's why the possible moves the Lakers could make aren't even that valuable. The main pieces they'll have is Talen Horton-Tucker, who has a $30 million contract, and Kendrick Nunn, who has yet to even suit up this season. We'll see what happens with the Lakers. As a Lakers fan, I'm stressed, but hopefully we can get back to where we were in the bubble.
This historic 2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers conquer the bubble, and banner number 17 will soon hang in the rafters.